Welcome back to Fourth and Favre. I'm once again joined with NFL Hall of Famer and the legend himself, Brett Favre. Brett, last week you said you were surprised you had a giant audience. It's actually gigantic. Are you surprised with the floods of emails and text messages on via social media about your podcast that people have been waiting for years to hear your thoughts?
Well, I'm 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 honored that people would tune in and be interested. Over time you fade away, and so to be out of football for roughly 15 years and kind of getting back into it. Now I've done some different. I did Sirius Radio with Bruce Murray and did some other things, but this is my first podcast. Hopefully my last. I hope it's a home run, but I'm honored that people would be interested and tune in.
Speaking of home run, World Series Game 7, you called it the Los Angeles Dodgers. I don't know how they pulled it off. I was watching it, and I mean, they had that one game. It went 18 innings, the longest game in Series history. And then the comeback kids. I mean, were you on your feet last night?
Actually, I was reclining, but what a World Series! Just the series, and look, the Blue Jays have nothing to hang their heads about. They are scrappy. I think I mentioned the last show I was always a Dodger fan growing up, but I'll be honest with you, either team I would have been pulling for. I mean, just a wonderful 7 games. I mean, it had it all. And we saw some. Not we talked about Otani last show. The guy's incredible, but Mookie Betts, in his latter years, I mean, they moved him to shortstop. He's been an outfielder most of his career, and he plays shortstop to basically perfection. And there are a lot of stories within the series, but if you're a baseball fan or even somewhat of a baseball fan and you tuned into the World Series, you got your money's worth and then some, no question.
I mean, Yamamoto was named World Series MVP. He pitched 2 games. He started 2 games, came in
Yep.
to close it out last night. And I mean, that ninth inning where I thought the Blue Jays were going to score, the throw came home. I mean, how close? You talk about football being a game of inches, but I don't know how he wasn't safe. Then I don't know how he was out. Was he safe at the plate?
I would be lying if I said either way. It was pretty damn close. And you're right. Football has been known as the game of inches, but this series has got to go down as the best ever in my mind. Now, I haven't seen every series that's ever been played, but I certainly was overly impressed with how both teams played.
And I would agree with you as far as I don't watch baseball until towards the playoffs and the World
Yep.
Series, but you start to hear these stories of 22-year-old from the Blue Jays, just Savage, he started this year at Class A ball. I would compare that to someone working at the supermarket before getting his chance starting an NFL game. So you had all these storylines. So I guess my question would be is if you could compare this to a Super Bowl, right? Which one do you think this would be?
Maybe Philly and the Patriots, where Doug Peterson called the Philly special and they basically won it on that play. But it was touch and go for both teams the entire game. And I honestly, watching this series, I said that I felt the Dodgers would win. They did win, but easily the Blue Jays could have won. And in their minds probably should have won. So it was never let your guard down, relax. My Dodgers or my Blue Jays are going to walk away with it. It was never that for the fan base. It was touch and go from the first pitch to the last pitch, which if you could write a script for the best series or the best Super Bowl or the best playoffs, that's how you would write it.
And maybe you're the best person to ask this to because I always wonder in the locker room, what is the head coach of the Blue Jays, Schneider, saying? What is the captain saying? But San Diego, 1998, Denver Broncos, and maybe we'll talk about this in another show. What do you tell your guys after you lose the big game?
Well, there's not a lot you can say. I think the most important thing you can say is the truth. You got to this point. A lot of people, a lot of teams did not get to this point. I know you're disappointed. We all are, but be proud of what you've done, what you've accomplished, because most people that play in the NFL never play in a Super Bowl. So, like in my case and my teammates, we were able to play in one and win. And unfortunately, we came back the next year and lost to Denver. But I'm proud of the fact that we got there. I mean, I try to focus more on, even in today's Brett Favre's life. I think probably more about the game we lost than the game we won. But I constantly remind myself, hey, you were part of a team that won a Super Bowl. It doesn't get any better than that. And I try to leave it at that. But I always think about that Denver game. And quite frankly, Denver, they outplayed us. And Terrell Davis had an unbelievable game. Rushford seemed like several hundred yards, but I think it may have been about 200. There's not a lot you can say. It was a great season. It didn't end the way you wanted it to, but be proud of the fact that you got here.
I was a kid in San Diego, and I was a Charger fan as being in San Diego, obviously, so
Yeah.
I was rooting for the Packers to win. And I don't, we'll revisit the game, but I know at the end, was it they let you guys score so that they could score? Was that Super Bowl?
I think we let them score so we could get a shot at getting the ball back. Now, in saying we let them score, they had an unbelievable run game. They may have scored anyway, but they were going to milk the clock, obviously. So we did the smart thing and basically give it to them so we can have a shot and get the ball back. And that happened. We didn't make it all the way.
We might not talk baseball until April. So give me your early predictions for World Series winner in 2026. Will the Dodgers make it a triple peat back to back to back, or do you see someone else coming out of the fold?
I think the Dodgers have to be up there just because they've won 2 in a row. They're pretty consistent. It depends on how many players they retain, injuries, and all those things that are always factors. Certainly play in this in my guesstimation, if you want to call it that. But I mean, there are a lot of like the NFL. I mean, there are a lot of teams that can beat you. And baseball is so much different than football. It's not near as physical, but you play 160 games. A lot can happen. You can get away with losing 5 in a row, where in football you can't. But 160 games, injuries can pop up, arms can go dead, or I mean, a lot of factors go into it. But I would say, based on what I saw this past series, either team could repeat and certainly could win the series. But I would not be surprised if both teams made it back to the series.
It's just so hard to three-peat. I mean, whether it's
Yeah.
NBA or NFL MVP, who's done that? I mean, that's a feat to be almost unheard of, except in one stance in the NFL. But switching gears, college football, what a wild college football series it's coming down to. First, I want to talk about your buddy, Deion Sanders. Deion, I see him sometimes on your socials leaving you messages and you guys go back and forth. He's having a rough time right now. Didn't let the players talk to the media after getting blown out. I believe they got blown out by, in the first half of both games, 80 something to 7, around there. So what do you say to someone like Deion, or do you think he can turn this program around?
There's no question Deion can turn it around. I mean, he did a wonderful job at Jackson State and put them on the map. And then when he went to Colorado, I mean, Colorado had been down for a long time. The last time Colorado was a force was back in Cordell Stewart and Eric Bieniemy, and I think Michael Westbrook was a receiver for him. So we're going way back. So he put him back on the map. Deion, he has his ways of coaching. Maybe other coaches wouldn't choose to coach in the manner that Deion does, there's no doubt he is a heck of a recruiter. And you know, his decision to have the players not talk to the media is, you know, he's the coach. He has that right. And he has his reasons for, you know, the media can corner you and get you to say things that will make things worse. So I'm sure Deion is wanting to keep everything in house, and, you know, more power to him. Can he turn around this year? That remains to be seen. But what he's done with that program in general, I think is nothing short of amazing.
Well, he has his primetime moniker, which I think gives him even that much more flack, and then a huger fan base. But one of the things I saw at Jackson State, and I'm a fan of Dion and his coaching style, he told the young players, he said, "Look, I can't expect out of you what I expect out of myself because I'll be disappointed all the time." So I really like that he instills discipline. Yes, he has this flashy personality, but that just comes with the territory. So for those that don't like his ways and that primetime flash, and you've been around Dion, you played against him. How do you balance that out?
Well, it's always, you know, it's sort of tricky, I guess, but Dion has managed to do it better than anyone. You know, he marketed himself. I tell people all the time, he was a genius, but you have to back it up. And he knew his game could back it up. But, you know, I'll say this about Dion, and this is a side of Dion that a lot of people don't know or would never know. When I was with Atlanta, I was a rookie. Dion took me under his wing. Why? I don't know, but he did. But Dion told me one of the first days of training camp, I'll give you $5 for every pass you can complete on me. And he did that because, you know, he wanted my best. He really wanted to, you know, to get some work in. And so I tell people all the time, I think at the end of the year, I owed him. I couldn't complete a pass off of him for nothing. I mean, he was a dog in practice. He covered as well in practice as he did in games, and that's pretty damn good. So I got to see him at his best every day. And it was he wanted me to challenge him so it would make him better. And that's the side of Dion, you know, everyone sees the flash and the gold and you know, the glitz and glamour and stuff that Dion brings with it. But he was a hard worker. He was a great teammate, and I think he's taken that to his coaching side of things.
Did he ever pick you off in practice?
Pretty much every week. But yeah, keep in mind, he said, "Look, I'll pay you $5 for every pass you can complete on me." So I'm throwing it at him like crazy. Dion's only the best corner in football, so you're going to be picked off. But in practice, it doesn't matter. He's like, "Hey, good job, Deion." In a game, it's a different story. And he picked me off my sophomore year. We went down to Tallahassee and played Deion, and I think they were ranked maybe top 5. First play of the game, I roll left and throw a hook route. My guy slips a little bit, and I hit Deion right in the numbers, and he takes it to the house. Fast forward to when he was with Dallas, we played him in the playoffs in Green Bay, and I threw it late to the boundary, and he high stepped on me for about 60 yards. So he picked me off in practice. He picked me off in games. And after the one against Dallas, he said to me, because I chased him in the end zone like I was going to catch him. It was kind of like running out of pop fly in Major League Baseball. They're not going to drop it, but you run it out. But after, you know, I ran it out, he called me Country. He said, "Country, didn't I tell you don't ever challenge me?" And I said, "Yeah." Then he said, "I love you, Country." And that was it.
And that was when you were at Green Bay and he was at Dallas. He said that.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And we've been great friends from the day I met him when I was a rookie in Atlanta. And I got nothing but the highest regards for him.
Let's get back to the coaching carousel. LSU last week, they fired Brian Kelly. Now Hugh Freeze gone from Auburn. There's such a high standard now in college football. Let's start first with the LSU, though, because Michael Papajohn, LSU Hall of Famer for baseball, he said he doesn't think he was the right fit. He said there's something about Louisiana and the South. You need to be the right fit. He just didn't feel Kelly was. And I think also the Louisiana governor alluded to that in certain ways. in the South, is there a culture? Does that need to be a certain person to take the reins in an SEC school?
Well, I think Michael is right. You know, I don't know the dynamics, ins and outs of LSU, but I grew up less than 2 hours from Baton Rouge. It goes without saying they have a massive athletic program. Their baseball is good. Their basketball has been good. Girls basketball, boys basketball,
Gymnastics.
football. I mean, you name it. It's been good. And so the bar is extremely high. I don't know if Kelly I don't know Brian Kelly. I think his resume is very good, but I just don't know if he was the right fit. I'm not saying anything about his coaching. He may be the greatest coach out there, but it didn't work out at LSU. And the question may be, well, who is the right fit? That's not for me to decide or say. But I think Ed Ogeron was a better fit. Now he eventually got fired too. He kind of talks like a Cajun guy. He acts like a Cajun guy. He's got a lot of piss and vinegar about him. I mean, he's scrappy. Maybe they should bring him back. I don't know. I've said this. I mentioned this several weeks ago in regards to Arkansas, but I mentioned a great fit would be John Gruden. I think John Gruden would be a great fit for any SEC school, especially the ones that have the money to make a splash. If you're looking for a name, John Gruden was on our staff my first few years in Green Bay, and we've remained friends throughout. Unbelievable coach. He's a young 60, full of piss and vinegar, eats, drinks, sleeps, football. I think we all can agree to that. I would love to see him in the SEC. Is it something that LSU wants to pursue, or Auburn, Arkansas, Florida? That remains to be seen, but I think he'd be a great fit for, and there's so many coaches that are let go. If you're looking for a big splash, they're just not going to be out there. I mean, they're going to get snatched up. James Franklin leaving Penn State. I mean, there's a lot of big name schools that are, in the market for a coach. It just depends on what they're looking for.
So with Hugh leaving, and like you said, James Franklin is gone, these schools, these institutions are paying out tens of millions of dollars for these coaches that will never be coaching for them again. Does that, for the fans, it's kind of a sour taste? How are we spending all this money? I mean, I think Brian Kelly's deal was 54 million, and they're paying him out upwards of in the 20 millions of dollars.
Yeah,
So
James Franklin was like 70 million.
yeah, the fans, I mean, what are you saying to them? I'm like, is there any changes that need to be made at all when it comes to the pay, or is that just where we're at
No,
right
the
now?
only thing I will say about the coaching carousel, and this is for pro football as well, I feel like that there's no patience within the organization or the college. I mean, they want to win now. I understand that. I totally understand that. But if you don't win right now, that's no reason to fire the coach unless you didn't do your homework and there's something about the coach that you didn't see prior to hiring, or you didn't hear, or you didn't do your due diligence, and you fire him because of that. That's a different story. But if just because you lose 4 games in a row, or you go on a 3-game skid where you don't score a touchdown, or your defense is struggling, that's part of it. But it's like there's no patience within the organization or the colleges anymore to ride it out another year. I mean, how can you gain chemistry with the NIL and the transfer portal and the coaching carousel the way it is? How can you find any chemistry and continuity if you fire your coach after 1 year, or you give him 2 years, you fire him, and he's basically starting over with a new team from day one, and then his second year he's starting over with another new team? I mean, I feel like they should give him a little more time.
And if you think about what you just said there, right? Remember a couple of years ago where Ohio State couldn't win the big one, and then Ryan Day was on the outs, and then next year he made it happen. So, to your point, I mean, if they just gave him a little bit more time
Yeah.
to implement their system, maybe there would be a change.
No, you're absolutely right. But what do we know? No one listens to us, David.
Let's talk about the college football rankings. So we talked last week. Georgia Tech was undefeated. Maybe because you said they were 8-0, they went out and lose to North
Yeah,
Carolina.
Jinx.
North Carolina State. You gave them a lot of props. Indiana, I don't know if I know Signetti is doing a great job, but then you think about the game last year against Notre Dame, they lose by 10. Is Indiana for real this year? Ohio State's right there. Oregon hasn't. Their only losses to Indiana. Where are we at right now?
Well, it's weird to hear Indiana being mentioned as one of the top football programs. You know, we know them as a basketball juggernaut, but in today's college football world, anything can happen. I'll take my Southern Miss Golden Eagles. They won one game last year. They're leading the conference this year. Now it's a new coach. It's a lot of new players, but that's the state of college football today. The team you saw last year is probably all gone, and it's a totally new team. I'm not saying that's the case with Indiana, but they have definitely found the right pieces, and that coach has done an outstanding job. He got rewarded for it. I'm like you. I look forward to, if it happens, and I think it will, the matchup between them and Ohio State. We know Ohio State is good. They have been good for a long time, and on their worst seasons, they're still really good. Indiana, there's a lot of unknowns just because we don't think of them as a perennial power in football. But that will be a heck of a matchup that I think will be a huge audience watching that. Again, Indiana they have set the bar high. Not only are they winning, they're blowing people out. I mean, it's crazy. And you don't really get to see them very much, so you don't know a whole lot about them. But I think that they're certainly legit. What little bit I've seen of them, they're fun to watch.
And what's interesting, I don't know if you caught some of the Texas game against when they played Vanderbilt, but like you said, Arch Manning coming off a concussion, bounced right back, and I mean they were blowing Vanderbilt out until the Vanderbilt came back. But 20 beats number 9. Is Texas back in the picture? Does Coach Sark have them there with 2 losses?
Well, they're definitely back in the picture, and I think Arch is finally coming into his own and playing extremely well. I think when I didn't watch the game, but I saw highlights and the end result, a couple of things came to mind. Arch is starting to hit his stride, which could bode well for them and not so well for other teams. But, they dug themselves a little hole that they're climbing out of slowly. Vanderbilt, on the other hand, I don't, as I watch the results and the highlights, I think they're legit, even though they lost, because they're down by 21 in the fourth quarter. They fight and claw back and almost win the game. Are they, or were they the number 9 team in the country? That's anyone can make the argument either way. But I think they're definitely legit. And much like Indiana, I can't believe we're saying Vanderbilt is a national championship contender, but they are. I know they're disappointed, but that was a hell of a comeback yesterday.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how that rounds up. NFL talk. You tweeted out to Jordan Love and posted on your Instagram. You congratulated him on 20 straight receptions. Fans loved it. Obviously, your name is synonymous with that record. Now it's Jordan Love as well. He's playing at such a elite level right now, which is kind of shocking this early on in his career. What are the Packers doing? How's Love looking for you right now?
Well, I thought it was Jordan's best game yet from day one. I try to look at the whole picture. He's going against his old mentor. I've been in that situation. I know exactly what the pressure feels like. Anticipation to get that game underway. They're playing away at Pittsburgh, hostile environment. You know that Pittsburgh wants to win for obvious reasons, but also Aaron wants to play the best football he's ever played. And quite frankly, Jordan I thought he was a surgeon. He did everything. I'm not going to say perfectly, but as close to perfectly as possible. I mean, he obviously completed a lot of passes or he wouldn't have had that record. But I just think that he used every arsenal in his toolbox and was accurate, made great decisions, and they won the game. The most important factor of it all, they ended up winning the game. I just think it was, in my opinion, his coming out party. Like, I'm here to stay.
So let's talk front runners for the MVP right now. I would put Jordan right up there, but then Patrick Mahomes, I mean, this guy, he just comes out, he having a bad season, and all of a sudden he's clicking. They got Rice back. So who are some of your front runners right now for MVP?
Well, there's several, and Patrick, I think every year he plays, however many years, you can always place him as a potential MVP candidate. He's just that type of player. But by 3 to 5 that I think could, maybe win the MVP, Baker Mayfield, and I look at the whole picture. Statistics are just one piece of the puzzle. If you go by statistics, you can probably eliminate a lot of people and you can probably put X number just based on their statistics as front runners. But there's more to it than that. He's a winner. He's scrappy. He's fun to watch. He's a heck of a leader. And he gets the job done. So Baker would be one of my top contenders. Jalen Hurts has clawed his way back as one of them. I'm gonna throw in a younger name, Drake May. They're giving Buffalo a run for the division title. And this kid, will he win it? Probably not, but he's playing exceptionally well, and taking over for some big shoes and Tom Brady, and has done an exceptional job. But and then your Josh Allen's, your Patrick Mahomes, they're always going to be up there as a candidate year in and year out. So that's my short list.
You named everyone that I was thinking of. The only one that I would put right there on honor roll is Justin Herbert. The Chargers he hasn't playing really well when he's on.
I agree.
So right now, as we recording this, it's the fourth quarter, 13-13, Green Bay and Carolina. Jordan Love has one pick. So not thoughts on the game, but he's had such a good game, and you've been there. You had this huge game, and now they're playing the Panthers, right? Which should just be a roll them over game. And now it's not bad, just no touchdowns, just one pick. Is there a dichotomy between having such a big game, big stage, and now we're expected to just win this game?
Well, I think you always got to be very conscious of what you mentioned. Big, huge game. You don't need to have no pep talk. You don't need to be motivated by the coach. The game itself is so big that if anything, you got to try to settle yourself down. Then shift gears to the following week, and it's not near as big a game. It's a game that you're expected to win rather easily. But as you know, no wins are easy. Just when you think that they are, that's when it jumps up and bites you on the rear. I think Jordan, I've never been in the locker room with him or in the huddle, but I think he's got a great head on his shoulders. And I don't think that for a second that he is looking past the Carolina path. If anything, Carolina may be playing at a level that they didn't expect them to. But there's so many factors that go into winning and losing, and you can never judge a book by its cover, especially in the NFL.
Hail Mary question. It's twofold this week, Brett. Your Hail Mary question is, you're going to a nightclub or a bar. You could take one teammate with you. There's no weapons involved. It's just going to be fisticuffs, a little bit of MMA. What teammate do you bring with you and why?
Oh, boy. We had a right guard my first few years in Green Bay, a guy by the name of Harry Galbraith, who's passed away. He passed away at a young age, played at University of Tennessee. We used to always joke about Harry. Everybody would say, that dude scares me, but I'm glad he's on my team. He was being around UFC guys like you have been over the years. They're all can hurt you and probably could kill you with a Peruvian necktie or whatever move they want. But then there's always that one that gives you the eye or just got a quirky way about him that you just go, you don't want to cross that guy. Harry was one of those guys. I loved him being my teammate. I felt a lot safer with him as my teammate. I would certainly feel a lot different if he wasn't my teammate or if I met him in a dark alley and I didn't know him. But it would have to be Harry.
And the last Hail Mary question, it goes along the lines of that one. You're going to war now. War, weapons. You can pick two guys to fight along you side by side, right? What two guys would that be and why?
Man, now you really put me on the spot. Playing 20 years, as you can imagine, there's so many great teammates. Oh, man, you got me. Probably one would have to be my old roommate, Frank Winters. I obviously knew Frank in a different perspective than everyone else knew him because we roomed together. He was my center, so my hand was always on his butt. I mean, there's this level of closeness, much like we talked last week, pitcher, catcher, quarterback, center. But Frank was a free agent, Plan B free agent. They don't even have that anymore. Basically, he was left out on the street and clawed his way back in as a deep snapper and then became our center. But he was a baller now. You wouldn't be impressed by 40 time, by bench press, by shuttle. broad jump, all that stuff. But that dude he was a scrapper from Hoboken, New Jersey. He would be one.
And he was in your Halloween video that went
Yeah.
viral, pranking Coach Holmgren.
Yeah. Frank's not a great actor. Now I'll say that. How Homer didn't pick up on it sooner, because Frank can't disguise his Hoboken. Hey, dude, what the, hey, forget about it. He doesn't know how to talk any different. So that's a dead giveaway. And I was shocked that it took Mike that long to figure it out. But definitely Frank would be one of those. Oh man, let me think about it and get back to you the next show.
We'll catch you next week. Instead of that guy, we're on the anniversary of the guy grabbing the ball out of your hands. Were you freaked out by that at all?
Well, you don't expect that. I know, as you remember watching the video, it's not like I saw him coming. So I thought the referee took it out of my hand. And then this guy goes off running, and I'm like, you got to be, you know what? This dude's, then I thought about going to tackling, but I think there was like 8 security guards trying to tackle him. So I said, but the game was, I mean, we had a chance to win right there at the end, but I didn't play very good in that game. I just made the chaos even more chaotic. Like, what else can happen? That's kind of what I was thinking.
Would you have really tried to tackle him if he was within arm reach of you?
Oh, hell yeah. Hell yeah. If he'd have came back my way, I'd have definitely taken him out.
Brett Favre, thank you for episode 2. We're in the can. We'll see you next week.
All right, David. Appreciate it, brother.